Hi gang, it's Wednesday, and that means it's classic rock on Waxing On. And today we're going to look at a performer who I first became aware of when I listened to and saw the movie Woodstock. You remember we talked about that during episode 1, and that's Joe Cocker. Joe Cocker's first exposure into North America was Woodstock, and shortly after that he went on a tour of the U.S. And we'll take a look at that in just a moment. I'm just going to show you the first album I got of Joe Cocker's was one simply titled Joe Cocker. I think it was his second album. I picked this one up about in 1971, although I see it was recorded maybe in 1969. And he was just breaking onto the scene. Not playing any instruments, just strictly a singer. On here he's got a good cross-section of music. He's doing songs by Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen, Lennon and McCartney, George Harrison again, two by Leon Russell, who became very important in the early years with Joe Cocker, performing on this album and on the next album we're going to talk about in a moment. And John Sebastian. Joe had written one song on here, and I think he wrote a song on the first album, but he really wasn't known as a songwriter. He was more an interpreter of the music. And really good album to get your feet wet with Joe Cocker. I mean, I really enjoyed this one. And because of that, I went to see Mad Dogs and Englishmen, which was this concert movie. There's just a picture of the cover. Unfortunately, I don't have it on CD. And this was his first concert tour in North America. And the CD was recorded at Fillmore East in New York in 1970. And the band consisted of Leon Russell on guitar and piano. And I'll tell you, Leon Russell really kind of set the style and the tone and the feel of what Cocker was all about at this point. His piano playing was just excellent. We've got Chris Stanton, who's left over from the Grease Band. Don Preston on rhythm guitar. Now, Don Preston, you may remember, we had talked about him back in the Zappa episode as well. He was one of the, again, original mothers of invention. We've got Jim Price on trumpet. He played on a couple of albums during this time period. He was playing on some of these other rock albums along with Bobby Keys on tenor sax, who was doing a lot of work at this point with the Rolling Stones. So these guys were really integrated into the rock and roll community. Now, on the album, give you some idea what he's playing. Firstly, there was two songs on here. When I was in high school, we had a jukebox in the cafeteria. And two of the songs that were most played came from this album. One was kind of a bluesy, slow song, and it was actually written for Ella Fitzgerald to sing in the movie Pete Kelly's Blues. And you may remember we talked about Pete Kelly's Blues back in episode 51 when we looked at Jack Webb. They ended up not using it, and it was recorded by another lady, and it was a minor hit. It's also been recorded by a number of other singers. I think Michael Bublé did it most recently. But Joe Cocker did a version of it that turned things upside down. The song was Cry Me a River. And the style of piano playing with Leon Russell, Joe Cocker's interpretation, this song is just a classic. The other big hit and the other most played song on our high school jukebox was the Box Tops hit The Letter. Again, that special Leon Russell touch to it, that the chord setting, the way he played piano, the way he set everything up, and Cocker singing. These are two that if you've never had a chance to hear early Joe Cocker, or you've never really listened to a lot of Joe Cocker, these two songs really do capture the essence of what he was all about in these days. Cry Me a River and The Letter. And they were two of the standout songs from this album. Other songs on the album, to give you just some idea what he's playing, some of it was from the Woodstock set. We've got Honky Tonk Women, the Rolling Stones tune. We've got Sticks and Stones, Bird on a Wire, and that was from the album I just showed you a moment ago, the Joe Cocker one, the Leonard Cohen song. Feeling All Right, again, another one from the first album, and this is one he played quite often. It was really one of his big hits. Let's Go Get Stoned. I'll drown in my own tears when something's wrong with my baby. I've been loving you too long. Girl from the North Country, another Bob Dylan tune in there. Give Peace a Chance by Leon Russell. She Came In Through the Bathroom Window, another Beatles tune. from The Letter and Delta Lady, another one by Leon Russell. Great album, and you know how much I love the live albums. To start with, live Joe Cocker on his first tour. Now, there was a second live album that came out quite a bit later. I'll show you this one, Joe Cocker Live. And this one had more of his current hits. Give you some idea what's on here. We got Feeling All Right Again. We've got Up Where We Belong. By this time, he'd done the soundtrack music. A couple of songs by Randy Newman. When the Night Comes, Unchain My Heart. Of course, with a little help from my friends. You Are So Beautiful. High Time We Went. What Are You Doing With a Fool Like Me? And Living in the Promised Land. So we got two excellent live albums. Now, I was lucky. I got to go see Joe Cocker probably in the mid-90s. He was touring behind the album Have a Little Faith. By this time, Joe Cocker's 50. So a lot of what had happened during those early years, he'd matured past that, and he was back out on the road and performing. I know a lot of people, when they first see Joe Cocker, the first thing they notice is, you know, the arm movements and the body language, and they get caught up in that, and that's all they focus on. Seeing him live is different than listening to him. Seeing him live, you realize he's not just a singer out there. He's not just standing up singing the song to entertain you and then waiting for the response, and, you know, like so many do. So many performers are performing their songs for you. They're, you know, playing their catalog. Joe Cocker was different. And part of it was in all those movements, the body language that was going on. It seemed that Joe Cocker wasn't just singing the song. Joe Cocker became the song. Joe Cocker was the medium through which the song was given to us. It totally absorbed him. And everything he was doing on stage was not showmanship. It was more just a way of delivering the song. And you don't get that when you listen to it. If you see him live, you can realize just how much he was into it. At this point, 50 years old, he'd been around for years. This is 1994. It's not like he had anything to prove. And yet he was out there giving it all. Every song he was working at. It wasn't like he was laying back saying, I'm just going to do it, you know, collect my check and go home. No, he was actually putting his whole heart and soul into everything he played when he was out there and everything he sang. So he was excellent if you got a chance to see him live, if you were lucky enough to see him. Other than that, unfortunately, Joe's left us now, so we're left with the live recordings. So if you get a chance, check them out. The two live ones I talked about here, Mad Dogs and Englishmen, and Joe Cocker Live. And certainly, any of the albums are worth a listen to. They're all on the streaming network. I know it seems like old music. We're looking at, you know, from 1969 with Woodstock. But he was doing a lot of great renditions of songs from a vast variety of people, whether it's the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Bob Dylan. I mean, he took their songs and made them his own. So if you get a chance, check him out. One of my favorite performers for years, I mean, I've been following him since '69, Joe Cocker. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you on Friday. Until then, everybody stay safe. See you then.